Need an assist on finding a new vehicle? Head to Bob Moore Ford because we're dishing out deals on our entire inventory, like the 2013 F-150 or F-250. Pick yours, then roll out. Visit BobMooreFordOKC.com for a chance to win our monthly prize.
Durant, pull-up jumper, off the rim, and and the Thunder win! All right, come on, let's sing the Thunder song. When you hear the sound of thunder, don't you get too scared. Just grab your Thunder buddy and say these magic words.
Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Thunder Buddies podcast, presented by Bob Moore Ford. It's a Game 1 recap, Game 2 preview of the Thunder Spurs Western Conference Finals. And do not worry, everyone, I am not eating today.
I took care of that. No Reese's Pieces for Anthony Slater on this podcast.
You should have taken care of that before the last one.
Don't put that on me. That had nothing to do with me.
Yeah, tired, confused. I can't believe I did it.
It was a rookie mistake is what it was. It was a rookie mistake. But you should know better by now. You're in the playoffs.
Hey,
rookies
have bad games. Steven Adams wasn't great last night.
What is this, game 95, 96?
Yeah, that's probably the reason I made that mistake. If we're 96 games in, I can't believe how many NBA games I've been to this year.
What's the ride been like? How would you classify it or categorize it?
Crazy, especially that. You know what was crazy was that January run where I went on like every road game. There was like 14 road games, and it was really the first time I traveled.
You got some nice cities in there, too.
Yeah, some real nice cities. That was part of what made it, fun but crazy, but it was just so much travel, the back-to-backs, I mean, you're just like almost delusional because of how tired you are. I'm right until late at night. I'm getting up. I'm flying from Boston to Philadelphia. Then I'm, going to Atlanta. Oh, I'll go back to OKC quick. Oh, then I'm flying to San Antonio. Oh, there's an ice storm. Okay, I got to drive to San Antonio, this and that.
Yep. While
you're covering a team, fun but crazy.
A lot of people don't know what goes on with our jobs behind the scenes.
Especially when we cover a team down in Oklahoma City and it has like no direct flights anywhere.
Yep. You're always stopping in Dallas or Houston or Denver, Kansas City. It's tough flying out of OKC.
Yeah. Right, but
once you get there, it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Okay.
We got Berry Tramel with us
We
today.
got Berry Tramel, special guest Berry Tramel, who we're just going to throw him on the spot. Game 1 thoughts. Thunder lose 122-105. The same exact score as they lost Game 1 to the Clippers, but it felt a little different than the Game 1 against the Clippers, didn't it?
Yeah, the Clippers just shot the lights out on three-pointers. Spurs shot lights out on two-pointers. 2-footers.
Yeah, right.
2-footers. I forgot what I said, but the the Spurs had 20-something shots. They made 20-something baskets at the basket. Layups, dunks, drives at the rim.
20 of 26 in the first half in the paint.
Yeah, and so they got to fix that. And as Scott Brooks, in his greatest game ever, his greatest post game ever, I thought last night.
Potentially.
It was his best quotation stretch ever.
He'll have a blow.
He said Serge isn't coming back. He's not walking through those doors. So tomorrow night, Serge isn't going to be there.
Nope.
Just as he wasn't there last night. So they're not going to be able to knock down or bat away those 1-foot shots. Or they got to keep them out of it. They got to keep the Spurs out of the paint.
Does that mean they have to change their defensive philosophy? Because we've talked to Thunder people in the past as far as they say we give up a lot of shots at the hoop, but we just have one of the greatest goaltenders and just a defense.
Well, if their philosophy is to let them by, they got to change it. Now, I don't think that's their philosophy.
Well, I'm just saying they trap so hard and they do stuff where
they play very aggressive.
Do they have to tone that down?
Yes, they have to tone it down. You can't let Ginobili and you can't let Tony Parker and you can't let those guys turn the corner.
It's in different ways the same issue as last year with Westbrook. When he goes out, it's so hard to adjust, on the fly. Suddenly you got to adjust your defensive system in a few days' time against the best oiled offense. They may not have the best talent. Well, they definitely don't have the best talent in the league, but they may run the best, smoothest offense to go against a defense, especially a defense missing its biggest.
They're going to have to let them shoot threes.
That sounds like a terrible idea.
Yeah, right.
This team leads the league in 3-point percentage in the regular season and postseason. Yes, you'd rather let someone take a three than a layup. I get your point there. But, it's a pick your poison equation. If you let them start taking open threes.
No.
Threes. You said let them take threes.
You got to let them. You got to make them shoot threes. You got to make them shoot threes.
Well, they better be contested threes.
Well, you need to contest everything. But last night they were shooting uncontested 2-footers. So you got to do something. The Spurs aren't going to shoot 20-footers. They're not going to shoot long twos. If you shoot long twos, Greg Popovich comes and sits you down on the bench and lets you study what the arc is all about. And then you get to go back in. You got to make this team shoot from outside because they're going to shoot. It's a layup drill if the way they played last night.
What did the Spurs shoot from three last night?
I believe 9 of 15.
They're going to come out and make 18 threes in game 2, and it's just going to be embarrassing.
Maybe. They were good enough from three last night. 9 of 17. That's over 50%. So they shot well last night. Danny Green, 4 of 5. And a plus-minus of 30. It's a solid game from Mr. Green. But the lineups, does Scott Brooks have answers? He has options, but are any of them answers?
I don't have any. Last night's one of the few games where I could sit there and think, I don't have any problem with what Scotty's doing. You know me, I'd always play Tabo more.
Yeah. Would you play Tabo 48 minutes if you were?
No, but I'd play him 30.
False.
Somebody's got to get in their way. If he's your best defender,
you'd feature Tabo on offense.
If he's your best defender, maybe he's not your best defender. Maybe we got all this wrong. Maybe he stinks on defense. But if he's your best defender and you're getting torched with your defense, why is he playing 15 minutes?
Well,
just because he clanged a couple of shots that were ugly.
That is the inherent issue.
Don't tell me
series.
You're a defensive-minded team if you base your whole rotation on how badly some guy misses a couple of shots.
That's your issue in this series, and that's your issue without Ibaka. Is suddenly now you lose your most balanced player, who he's going to be really good on defense, and he's going to be really good on offense. So now you only have Westbrook and Durant. And basically everyone else on the team is just one or the other. They're either, a good plus offensive player and a bad defensive player, or a bad defensive player and a good offensive player. So it's tough to have Tabo out there when Perk's also out there, when Collison's also out there.
Maybe that's a reason to not start Collison.
Yeah,
Collison wasn't
sign me up.
He wasn't trying to keep him out of the paint. Collison wasn't the reason they were getting in the paint. Now, they hurt Collison once they got in the paint, but if you need more offense, I don't know that the answer is setting Tabo down.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, if you need more offense,
need more defense.
If you need more offense, I think you got to look for it elsewhere than sacrificing Tabo.
Okay,
is what I mean.
Okay,
unless he's not any good on defense. Heck, I'm no great judge of talent. Maybe he's not any good on defense.
No,
if he's not any good on defense, why is he playing at all? I guess is my point.
Right.
The other thing is, if you're playing him and he's not playing well offensively, if you're starting him and he's not playing well offensively, why isn't he guarding Tony Parker? Put him on Tony Parker to start the game.
Yeah, although Danny Green looks like a guy you got to guard too now.
Yeah, but Westbrook can control him. Cephalosha historically has been better on Tony Parker. So I'd say put Cephalosha on Parker to start the game. Let Russell Westbrook handle Danny Green. That way he's giving you more defensively than he would be on Danny Green if he's not going to give you any offense.
I love the idea. 2012, West Finals flipped when Scotty moved Tabo onto Tony Parker.
Okay. Who then, because we all agree, they need more scoring probably in that starting lineup. Who do you start for who? I'm assuming you take Collison out.
I don't think you start anybody differently in game 2. I think you keep your starting lineup in game 2. The thing is, it's a 7-game series. You don't overreact. You have to give your starting lineup that you set out in game 1 with a chance to be successful. Nick Collison and Kendrick Perkins had success in that third quarter. I mean, it looked bad in the first period, but they had success in the third quarter.
They were minus 11. That lineup was minus 11 in the first, and then I think they outscored them by 4 or 5.
5. I think it was 5 in the third before they came out. So that's something that you can build on. That third quarter was something that the Thunder can build on. And if they play like they did in that third quarter, the first part of that third quarter, before the wheels fell off there at the end of the third period, then that's something that you can say, hey, okay, let's figure out what we did right in that stretch and try to replicate that to start the next game. So I don't think you change and overreact going into game 2.
Yeah. And, I mean, at least in my mind, the thing that the Thunder have to win this series by having 4 games of top-level Durant and Westbrook together. That's the only way, to me, they win this series. Last night, Durant, 10-19, 28 points, was good. Russell Westbrook was good in the third quarter. I think finished with 25, 7, and 5. Good game. We'd qualify that as a pretty good games. But don't they have to have, like, phenomenal games for them to even have a chance? Because they don't have other weapons. I mean,
here's the problem. I tweeted this in the fourth quarter of last night's game. Durant Westbrook in the fourth, 7 points, 2 of 6 shooting, 4 turnovers. Manu Ginobili in the fourth, 9 points, 3 for 3 field goals, 0 turnovers. So the Thunder's best 2 players, who we talked about coming in this series as the best 2 players in this series, combined to get outscored by Manu Ginobili in the fourth quarter.
And it was a game going to the fourth. It's kind of hard to remember, but the Thunder take the lead midway through the third, which I still am just confused that actually happened.
Yeah, and it was a 10-point game with 5.5 minutes left.
Yeah.
So the Thunder had a chance, but like you're saying, their stars weren't superstars. And when that happens, you're not going to have a chance.
Against the Spurs, they have to be, and without Ibaka, they definitely have to be.
Well, I love the fourth quarter stat you gave, because here's the deal. What happened in last night was the fourth quarter was an offensive failure. They had 17 points in the fourth quarter until 2 late three-pointers by Fisher and Perry Jones, which meant nothing. So the Thunder offense sort of disintegrated last night, and part of it is I think they ran out of gas, because it takes so much energy to come back. They were down. They somehow miraculously took the lead. I couldn't believe it when they took the lead. I thought that was just stunning. And then they
felt like they were down 15. Yeah, like they're up 1. And then I guess Westbrook was good for a little bit.
And then they get back, down, and then they, that was it. So they do have to be better on offense. I guess Perry Jones is an option if you want to make the offense better.
He is an option. Let's try it.
See what happens. I mean, I think he could. Nothing Splitter did last night impressed me.
No, he's. Nothing Splitter's done in his entire life has impressed me. I mean, he's a good little cutter.
In terms of needing to guard him, I think a tall guy can guard him.
But like I've said, put Perry Jones on him, or even put Perry Jones on Leonard and then Durant on Splitter. You know what? If Greg Popovich feels the need to run his offense through Thiago Splitter, go ahead. The worry you have is when Boris Diaw comes in, because that dude can post up.
Yes, he can. That's Caron Butler.
Yeah,
that up and under
Jackson.
move. I'm still thinking about it a day later. That up and under. I mean, the one he hit on Jackson was kind of like a little jump hook on the block, but that up and under.
You know what he is?
He looked like Duncan on that up and under.
To me, he's this series version of Big Baby.
Oh boy. Not nearly as wide, though.
He was a lot more nimble out there.
Yeah,
though.
he is.
And just skilled.
He's really
super
good because
skilled.
he's got great footwork to keep up with the wings on cross matches, or if the Thunder wants to go small and he has to guard one.
Remember him guarding
LeBron
in the
finals? Size on the block that you can't body him. Like, he's gonna body you and make you pay if you try to play him small.
He's gonna bump
Tony
you.
Parker apparently said that after the Spurs shoot around yesterday, or Ginobili.
Yeah,
said that they're gonna make him pay with his size if they try to go small.
He matters. Remember him in the finals last year? They threw him on LeBron for stretches.
Yeah,
and it was
he was
really
guarding
bothering
LeBron.
So he's a very underrated factor in this series.
Yeah.
If I was an NBA GM, my front line might be DL Big Baby with Stone.
Steven Adams.
Yeah. Maybe you go real big.
Boris Diaw's your 3, Big Baby's your 4. Steven Adams your 5.
Ooh, what a lineup.
Yeah.
Oh, some offensive firepower. So Jamal Crawford.
Lance Stevenson's your 2.
And Jamal Crawford's the
your
1.
Hey, Jamal Crawford emailed me.
Yeah,
thanked me for the 6th Man of the Year award. He thanked me for my first place vote.
A personal email. And then Darnell emails him back and says,
I said, you deserved it, man. Great season.
And he emails him back and says, thanks again.
Jamal Crawford.
Who knew? Email. Hey, I was a little jealous.
Let me stop it. Let me stop it. I got a question. I'm not trying to start a forest fire. How many times have you been thanked by a Thunder player for any of the hundreds or dozens and maybe hundreds of flowery, great stories you've written about him in the last 7 years?
I am not sure they read any of those. I'm not sure they read any of them.
I think they're just made aware of the negative ones.
I think all the negative ones land on their doorstep. But the positive ones, I'm not sure they're aware that I write positive articles.
So who's delivering the negative to them?
Friends, families, neighbors, and probably some people that listen to this podcast, frankly. I mean, if you got a neighbor, how many times when we wrote the headline did your neighbors come up to you and say and try to figure out the headline? Or if something happens with OU football or OSU football, do they come and try to figure out the story from you? If we write something, neighbors half the time, in my experiences, are the people who are telling, in addition to family and friends, telling these players, hey, did you see what such and such wrote about you in the paper?
Yeah.
So,
and
the team staff. I mean, I think the team staff, I don't think they do it as much as family, friends, and neighbors. But I throw the team in there, too.
Yeah, another thing they do, I think they search their names on Google and Twitter. In fact, I know they do. And, they look for negative comments, maybe articles, different stuff like that when they're bored at home. And, I can't really blame them.
Why don't they? But I'm sure that's true. Why aren't friends, family, whoever, giving him the positive stuff, too? That's my only question.
Well, I mean, it'd have to be really positive because you know how much stuff Durant probably gets positively about him.
I think it's human nature, though. I mean, you're gonna be more upset by the negative than you are pleased by the positive. I think that's human nature.
I don't think it is human nature. I don't spend a millisecond with the nonsense I get from people who are ripping me. But when somebody writes me something nice,
you probably become a little bit more immune to
You're
it.
Also 50-plus years old.
Yeah,
we're talking
true.
about 24-year-old athletes who've never been criticized. You've been criticized since you were 17. You turned pro at 17, as you like to tell us. You've been criticized since you were 17 years old for things that you've probably written.
That's why
these guys have never, ever, ever been criticized.
That's why a guy like Derek
superstar
Fisher,
athletes.
Like a guy like Derek Fisher is good with that stuff. Kendrick Perkins.
Well, I'm thinking about, the stuff you've written about Durant and why he wears 35. That story a few years ago. The trip back home. The trees that we have felled printing the stories of Kevin Durant. That's the kind of. I mean, I got to believe they read that stuff.
Yeah,
too.
and I assumed. I mean, Durant's great, and he wasn't.
He didn't care about the headline. He was.
So I'm sure he sees it, but the other people, it's here now. It's what do you remember? In the last week, and the headline's still fresh in people's mind. So it's that, but how I mentioned that I know people search Google and search Twitter and stuff. Did you see a couple weeks ago, probably 3 weeks ago, Russell Westbrook's Twitter account just randomly tweets Russell Westbrook? That was his tweet, and everyone was like, "What? Like, why did that happen?" It's because he was trying to search his name in Twitter, and he actually hit tweet Russell Westbrook.
Someone said, either that's it for you, Russell, or no more questions for you, bro.
Yeah. Oh, man, it was
But Jamal Crawford, I mean, I couldn't believe I'm sitting in the pregame press conference with Greg Popovich yesterday, and I get this email from this email account at blackberry.net, and I'm like,
I was about to get that email.
And it never said Jamal Crawford or Jamal or anything like that.
Don't say the email.
It just said JC. And I'm like, JC. I only know one JC.
Yeah, and you voted for him number 1 and 6th man, which I actually didn't. I voted Taj Gibson,
which is shocking.
Yeah, it is a little bit.
I was going to say, as much as time as you spent talking about Jamal Crawford on this podcast, and you all of a sudden don't vote for him for Sixth Man of the Year.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I just thought Taj Gibson really earned it this season. I think I put Jamal Crawford second. I was gonna say I want to get that email Crawford and say, hey, listen to a few of these podcast episodes. You'll be thanking me for some of the stuff I've been saying.
I got one more story I want to tell. It's kind of like has nothing to do with anything, but
out
in L.A.
All right.
When Mark Wahlberg walked by us, I gotta tell the people this. Mark Wahlberg walked right by us.
One of about 80 stars we saw in L.A.
Yeah.
I don't know how many we're going to see in
trip.
San Antonio.
But I wanted to go up to Mark Wahlberg so bad and tell him about our Thunder Buddies podcast and ask if he'd do a promo. It would have been perfect for this podcast. How many points would I have scored if we got Mark Wahlberg to say, this is Mark Wahlberg, the original Thunder Buddy. You're listening to the Thunder Buddies podcast on newsok.com.
We'll get it eventually. You know, we should.
My only fear was him. My only fear was him, and the possibility of him bringing up royalties or some sort of copyright infringement or something like that. And so,
hey, don't pop the idea in people's head here.
I'm sure the people at Warner
Thunder.
Brothers aren't listening to us or whatever produced that.
All right. Spurs Thunder.
Yeah.
Duncan last night. Barry, you're writing about Tim Duncan.
He ought to be after he ripped him on the radio on Monday afternoon.
You ripped him on the
radio?
radio?
He ripped him on the radio. To me, that was Tim Duncan's. That was Tim Duncan's Berry Tramel game. He dedicated that game
So the
to
only
Berry
thing
Tramel.
Tim Duncan was missing yesterday was a few birds in the press conference directly at Berry Tramel.
He kind of shot him a look, a Kevin Durant-esque look.
Oh no, Blake Griffin to Darnell
Blake
Mayberry.
Griffin to me. Yeah. Hey, this is the last thing I'll say, Barry, and you can explain yourself. When Al Eschbach is the voice of reason on the Total Dominance Hour, telling you that Tim Duncan is still a great player in this league, then there's a problem.
Apologies to you, Barry, but before you get on and trying to redeem yourself, please tell me first what you said on the radio because I was not listening.
I don't really remember, but I said he's not a great player anymore. I know I said that.
Well, he looked like a great player last night, didn't he?
He was pretty efficient, but he didn't look like a great player to me.
27-7 on 11-19. He had 15 points in his first 9 minutes.
Yeah.
21 in the first half. Dominated the game. Killed Kendrick Perkins. Torched the Thunder Bigs.
Perkins.
Oh, he killed your boy K. Perk.
He had 2 of his baskets in the first quarter came against Kendrick. 2.
Okay, killed the Thunder Bigs. Torched them. When Kendrick Perkins was on him, he was effective.
And it wasn't the Thunder Bigs. It was the Thunder Littles. Letting the ball get in the lane, and they were playing a basically from 5 feet out.
Well, the Thunder Bigs can't guard Duncan one-on-one, or they couldn't last night.
Actually,
oh geez, is he gonna write a torching piece on Duncan tomorrow?
In the third quarter, Perkins bodied him up and brought him back to earth. He's missed his first 5 shots.
Hey, did you see?
You know when the game turned last night? You know when the game turned, don't you? You know when the game got away from the Thunder?
Game turn?
When Perk got his 4th foul and had to go to the bench. That's when the game got away from the Thunder.
Well, they went out there with that small ball lineup again and couldn't.
I wanted to see Adams play.
But you know what Tim Duncan said to you when you asked that question?
Yeah, he didn't give me an answer.
He said, I missed shots.
Yeah, and I wanted to say, listen, you play the game, I watched the game. I saw you. You weren't getting the same shots.
Well,
he was not getting the same shots.
He was close.
He was close to the basket. Yeah, he was close to the basket, but he wasn't wide open. In the first quarter, the problem in the first quarter, the
pick and roll defense was horrible. They kept running pick and roll, which Kendrick Perkins has a big part in.
You're right about that. Here's the. I think I made this point a couple weeks ago. Again, maybe it's a Clipper game or even Memphis. The Thunder last night let the Spurs shoot what I consider old-fashioned layups. You know, if you watch NBA.com, they call any shot at the basket a layup. Those aren't layups. When Westbrook drives in and makes – and when Kawhi Leonard – you see Kawhi Leonard's twisting reverse
you don't call that a layup?
That's not a layup for crying out loud. A layup's when you just jump up and drop the ball in the basket.
Not a layup to you and I, but it's –
The Spurs
Kawhi Leonard
shot more than 10. I forgot. I think it's 12. What I consider layups. They shot 12 shots where they just have to drop the ball in the basket. they weren't being contested at the rim, and it's pick and roll defense is what most of it was. And you're right, part of that is on the bigs. They didn't play that well in the first half. Much better in the second half.
Well, you just completely turned the argument away from Tim Duncan and how great he was.
What are you
going to
write about Tim Duncan for Wednesday's paper?
Because he still had 21 in the first half.
After you ripped him on Monday on the radio.
You said the big thing was when Perk went out with 4 fouls. Tim Duncan wasn't that big an issue in the second half. He took over the game in the first half, 21 points.
Well, he was very good. I don't know that.
But he's not a good player anymore.
Are you guys ready to say Derek Fisher's a great player? If you're going by minutes played and productivity, Fisher had a better game than Duncan.
Well, Derek Fisher is maybe the greatest player in the history of basketball.
What are you writing about Tim Duncan for Wednesday's paper?
I'm going to say Tim Duncan is a great lesson for the Thunder, which is this. The window, we always talk about the Thunder's window of opportunity and how small it is, and Westbrook's injury, now Ibaka's injury, shows you how perilous this whole thing is. But it doesn't have to be small. If Westbrook and Durant are as loyal as they might be, I mean, and after that speech, everybody's saying, well, these guys are never going to break up. The Spurs were left for dead 5 years ago. For sure 3 years ago.
I don't know.
Tony Parker threw dirt on him, saying, he's over in France talking straight because Greg Popovich isn't anywhere around. And he said, our window's closed.
You could convince me that Kevin Durant will age as well as Tim Duncan, but you got no chance of convincing me that Russell Westbrook's going to age like Tim Duncan when he's 39. He's not going to be
No, you're right.
Crafty.
But my point is, Duncan's a great lesson that you can still be an effective player deep into your career that late. And here's the thing. If what Tim Duncan has done is done what Sam Presti has just preached and preached and preached and preached, which is buy into the culture. This part, you guys were ribbing me a few minutes ago saying Tim Duncan was eyeing you at the press conference. Let me tell you who doesn't read his press clippings, I promise you, is Tim Duncan. All this other stuff.
Yeah, I don't think Tim Duncan searches his name on Twitter. I'm pretty sure Tim Duncan knows less about Twitter than you know about Twitter.
It's very possible that that's true.
Yeah, he's a character. All right, Darnell, you're on my side on Tim.
By the way, let me just say, if anybody wants to know how old Tim Duncan is, I saw him get 22 rebounds one night. 19 years ago.
Yeah. Well, you said something the other day that I thought was even more. You said something yesterday that I thought was even more ridiculous. You said you were doing a story on former OU coach Jeff Capel and said, I want to know guys who played against Jeff Capel. So I went into Tim Duncan, who played against him in college.
Yeah, he played against Jeff Capel in college.
That's ridiculous to me.
And Jeff Capel was hired as the OU coach 8 years ago.
Yeah. And you went and talked to Tim Duncan 8 years ago about playing against Jeff Capel in college, and now 8 years later, Tim Duncan scored 27 in Game 1 of the Western Conference.
You know what I think I'll do? You guys think I hate Tim Duncan, and let me just say this. I resent the fact that the way you've misled people. But anyway, I'm going to go look up the guys he's played against.
I want a little Berry Tramel Tim Duncan cage match before Game 2.
We just sit around. I don't know what we'd do.
You talk about how new age technology is ruining the world.
Yeah, the NBA was a heck of a league back in '98.
Yeah, right. Tim Duncan, Darnell.
Yeah, he's an effective player. Not a great player. He's an effective player.
Not a great player.
He's the best power forward of all time.
Of all time.
We're not talking about all time. We're talking about 2014. He's not a great player.
They don't feature him, but they don't feature anyone. Do the Spurs have a great player in your mind?
No, and that's one of the problems. That's one of the problems for this reason.
For the Spurs or for other teams?
For other teams. The Thunder has a great team, but the Thunder's a little vulnerable for this reason. If one of the three goes out, and we thought it was two, but now we're starting to see it's three.
No, I always thought it was three.
Well, I agree with you. But if one of the three goes down, it's hard to replace. The Spurs, Leonard goes out, Duncan sits out, Parker.
Yeah.
He sits. Old Popovich will sit half his team and they'll still win a game.
By the way, we're talking about Duncan. He sat Duncan way too long in the third, fourth.
Well, the fourth quarter, they were playing so well he didn't need to get him back in.
I guess, but it was just like you looked at that small lineup out there and you're like, man, throw Duncan out and have him post up. I know Diao was doing it. But
you guys don't think Tony Parker's a great player?
I think I would think Tim Duncan's a great player. He obviously, I didn't know we were saying great had to be top 5 in the league because I don't think Duncan or Parker are top 5.
You don't think Manu Ginobili's a great player?
I think Kawhi Leonard's a great player. I think
Kawhi's a stretch, but he's becoming.
I'd say Kawhi at this point this year is better than Manu Ginobili.
No, yeah, I mean I agree with that, but Manu Ginobili when he's good, he is really good.
Yeah, I mean he's not a Hall of Famer. They have 3 Hall of Famers.
He's in decline, no doubt about it. But you saw in the second half of Game 1 that when he's on, the guy is a great player who's unstoppable. I mean, he's one of the best shooting guards of all time.
Yeah, Hall
and
of
he's been overshadowed because he's played in this team-oriented system with a lot of unselfishness and sacrificing that on his part.
Been a sixth man basically his whole career.
Yeah. But that dude is a great player.
He's going to be a Hall of Famer when basically coming off the bench.
They don't have 4 championships because they got a bunch of. Now Dave Robinson was a great player for that first one, the first 2, but they don't have 4 championships because they just got a bunch of really good individuals. They got great players and a great coach.
You guys are getting mixed history and current day mixed up.
No, winning
the 2007 NBA title is not really germane to the point here.
No, I know what you're saying, but I think
when they won their last NBA title, Kevin Durant was at Texas and Russell Westbrook was at UCLA.
Yeah, I think what we're getting mixed up is your definition of your line between good and great in the NBA.
Well, I say great's top 15.
They went to the NBA Finals last year.
They're a great team.
Should have won the NBA Finals.
They're a great team. It's one of the great. If you're a fan and you don't have any great geographic allegiance, the Spurs ought to be your favorite team. There's not any question about that. The way they play, the things they accomplish, the brand of basketball they use, it's unbelievable. It's fantastic. But
so exciting too.
It is exciting. Well, I think
in some ways,
exciting.
I'm joking. Tim Duncan, though, is not too exciting in his post-game press conference.
No, but I mean, they play fun. They play up tempo.
Yeah, no, it is fun to watch.
In fact, Greg Popovich said the other day, he said, we got in trouble with Oklahoma City when we don't run. One of the Thunders said it last night, I think. I forgot who. Said
Perk said it. I mean, the other day, something about Dallas. We saw the Dallas series.
Yeah, that's right.
They got in trouble when they went fast speed. Yeah. We got to do that. They didn't really do it last night though. You know who's not been good?
Who?
Caron Butler. He hasn't been good in a month.
I thought he was better last night.
It was okay.
I thought he was better last night. I mean, better. He stunk the last 3 or 4 games of the Clippers. I thought he made a few shots.
He has not been good in the playoffs. Like pretty much any game. I think he's had like 1 or 2 games where he.
But they need Caron Butler to score. If he's going to play 25 minutes, he needs to score 12, 14
points. Last month of the season, when he was shooting like 40-something% from 3, and he was really good.
He's getting lost on defense too. He's getting lost.
He's pretty
defense.
Slow.
Yeah, he is. Which means he better be able to guard Boris Diaw, and he couldn't do that either.
The Spurs can hide people on him too. I mean,
what I've found interesting is the way that the Spurs ran different people at Durant. They didn't mind switching with Bellinelli, Green, Ginobili.
I think Durant. You don't want it to be like the Memphis series where he's just throwing up wild threes, but I think he needs to just say, hey, I'm coming in the game. I'm shooting 30 times.
Well, they didn't get him enough shots early when he was clearly hot.
Yeah, 4-4 in the first.
With 6 minutes left in the second quarter, he comes back in the game. He sat for a while, and he had 4 shots at the time.
Yeah.
He's got to get more shots than that.
Yeah, it has to. He's got to get more shots than 19 in a game, especially if he's making 10.
I would like to see him get more shots in transition.
I'd like to see him get 30 shots.
I'd like to see him close.
That as well.
I gave you the fourth quarter stats. I mean, that was a 10-point game with 5.5 minutes left. He's got to be better. He can't turn it over. He can't start missing shots and and not run a good offense. I'd like to see him close.
Have you guys liked his demeanor lately with the media? As far as I
don't pay attention to anything these guys say with the media. Like, it's pointless. I don't care about his demeanor. I don't care what he says. We know what we see. We know. I mean, everyone knows what they see.
No, I just mean as far as like
it's not doing. It doesn't matter on the court. Like, that's my point. Like, whatever mood he's in, it doesn't mean anything on the court.
Well, in ways, maybe kind of does, because he just acts like when he has a game like this or when he has a bad game, it's always like, no, like you guys didn't see what happened. No, they're not guarding me one-on-one. It's not the defense.
He's not the first athlete that has pretended as if the media doesn't understand the game.
No, I just mean as far as like it seems like he's saying there wasn't as big an issue with him not shooting that many shots. It's just, hey, we're just trusting teammates, this and that. Which, you got to do that, but, sometimes doesn't he just have to?
Yeah, Kevin Ding from Bleacher Report wrote a pretty good column about, in some ways it was off base, because Durant's not the only superstar on his team, and that was almost that was kind of his premise. Russell Westbrook is a great player.
He's top 5 to 10, depending. He's been top 5 in the playoffs.
But he talked a lot about how, all the answers they were giving just didn't fit. And it's kind of what you're saying, Slater. Kevin Durant has to take over the game, and he has to do more. And at some point, you have to stop trusting, and you have to do what you're put on this planet to do, and that's go score the ball. I kind of disagree with that a little bit, though. Like, this team is at its best when everyone's involved, when Thabo Sefolosha is getting easy points, when Kendrick Perkins is getting catch and finish opportunities, when Nick Collison can be a threat from mid-range. That's when this team is at its most dangerous offensively. So if Kevin Durant's out there scoring 50 points,
like I said,
we've seen times where Kevin Durant has scored 45-plus points and they've struggled to win. Pull up some of those Timberwolves games.
Yeah,
he's had to do it all, and it's still been a struggle.
The Grizzlies game was, or the Grizzlies series early on, he can't be doing that where it's just jacking threes and stuff.
No, that's true, and I didn't mind Durant playing within himself. Going back to what these guys aren't giving the right answers, though, I'm with you, RFD. This idea of paying attention to what they say. If they give us a good quote that helps our stories, great. But thinking that these guys are actually saying what they mean or saying what they feel.
Some of them do, but it's rare.
It's very rare. Here's a perfect example. I showed AC this last night. Tony Parker last night is asked about Ibaka. And he's asked about the void of Ibaka, and he says something along the lines of, it probably hurt a little bit, and then one question later, somebody asked him something similar, and he said something along the lines of, losing Ibaka makes a huge difference. He's one of the best players in the NBA. Well, what happened in the 10 seconds where he went from it was a little bit of a factor to being a huge difference? It's just people. They're just talking.
Yeah.
They're just, you know
a
what?
Lot of times.
It's mental. You know what they're doing is they're just doing mental.
They go on autopilot.
Yeah, it's autopilot. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah. It's interesting. Game 2. What kind of adjustments can they make? Would you make what's the ideal Thunder lineup? You think the best Thunder lineup that should play the most time together in this series?
I think it needs to be small. They got to try to figure out a way, and I know Diaw can hurt them, but let's not get carried away. If you look at the box score, the least effective guy was Diaw. He was 3 of 7. Everybody else was over 500.
You can't really look at the box score because Diaw is a trump card to that small lineup. You're going super small. We'll put a Big Baby 2.0 out there.
I would go Westbrook,
you into the lane.
Jackson,
Sefolosha,
Durant,
Sefolosha,
and either Perkins or Adams. If Adams is playing solid defense,
because Adams gives you a lot more offensively.
Right. If Adams can't hack it defensively, you got to go with Perk. But whichever one, I think they're going to have to play small.
You got to have Jackson, Westbrook, and Durant on the floor at the same time because you need 3 playmakers, 3 offensive threats now that Ibaka's out. So I think those 3 have to be on the floor. And then you're right. I think it has to be either Adams or Perk, preferably Adams if he's playing well. So then who's your 5th guy? I think your choice is between Sefolosha and Butler, And if Butler's going to play as terrible as he has been, maybe have Cephalosha for better defense and, hope that he can, knock down a 3 or 2.
I like the 4. My 5th would be whoever's on that night, frankly. Butler, Cephalosha. I might even try Jeremy Lamb. You desperately.
What about PJ?
Desperately need
triple time.
I might try him, but I don't trust him as a shooter. Frankly, I mean, he made some shots in the regular season. But
he
we always talk about sample size.
He dropped that 3 last night.
He has no real history of making shots, especially on this stage. So I would go with Jeremy Lamb, who obviously I could say the same thing about him. He hasn't made shots
he's
on
made
this
more
stage.
Shots than Perry Jones.
On this stage, I'm saying. So,
but
I would go with him because he's a better shooter. There's no doubt that Jeremy Lamb's a better shooter than Perry Jones.
Yeah, but Jones is 6'11", longer.
Yeah, and he
way better defender.
He's longer, but Jeremy Lamb's got some length.
Yeah, but
either way, I mean, I'd lean toward Thabo. Lamb would be my 3rd. My order would be Thabo as the 5th guy, then Caron Butler, then Jeremy Lamb.
How about the man that still haunts the Spurs fans' dreams,
Derek Fisher?
D. Fish. I scored 16 with ease.
He was shooting 31% coming into this series in the postseason. He comes out last night and starts stroking it.
It's that little
I'm sitting
hot
next
spot.
to the Spurs beat writer last night, and he was in disbelief. He could not believe, and he knew that Fisher had struggled all postseason with his shot. And then all of a sudden, he just comes out there and starts stroking it.
Maybe it was the booze that got him going.
Maybe so.
But, yeah.
This, I told you last night.
How about this idea?
I wasn't talking.
Go ahead. I just popped in my head, but go ahead. I'll remember.
I told you last night I wanted to read you this quote from Scott Brooks. I put it in my game story. I'm going to read it verbatim. We're going to have to find lineups that work. I have faith in all of our guys to step in and do the job. No matter who we put on the floor, they have to be able to compete against this team. They have 5 guys that can score on the floor at the same time. You don't have a possession off, not one. We can't hide anybody. Everybody has to step up and guard. I couldn't help but find the irony in that quote. And here's why. Scott Brooks, for 6 years, has thrown out a lineup that has 2.5 to 3 guys that you really don't have to worry about.
One-dimensional players.
Serge Ibaka has emerged as a guy that you have to worry about on offense. Thabo and Cephalosha and Kendrick Perkins, I get what he's trying to do defensively, but Scott Brooks clearly understands how that works.
Yeah.
With that quote. I mean, Berry talked about that being his best press conference ever probably last night after the game. That quote right there told me a lot.
Bus?
I'm not going to say he threw himself under the bus.
I think he threw his options on his team under the bus because he's got, with Ibaka out, like I said earlier, he's got a ton of one-dimensional options. You're either good on offense, bad on defense, or good on defense, bad on offense.
Yeah, but you can at
least
make the team guard you. Like he's throwing out lineups consistently that they don't really have to worry about starting lineups. I'm saying consistently that they don't really have to worry about guarding guys, and that's a problem.
Well, I'm saying besides Westbrook, Durant, and Ibaka, who's now out, so really at this point, besides Westbrook and Durant, name a player on the Thunder roster that's very good on both sides of the ball. Not very good.
Fish is probably their third best guy.
Yeah,
but Reggie, when he's with it defensively, he's not consistent enough. But I would say I would throw those 2 guys in there, which is why we're talking about them needing to be on the floor. They need to be on the floor more.
But then when they get exploited on defense, you're like, well, this is like, you need defense out there. You got to get something.
Yeah, at one point they had Reggie Jackson guarding Manu Ginobili and Jeremy Lamb guarding Kawhi Leonard. And I'm thinking to myself, what on earth are these guys doing? It actually kind of worked because they cut the lead from like 15 to 8 at the half. But they got lucky in my mind.
Yeah.
You can't have those 2 guys guarding those 2 players.
I got a new starting lineup idea. Start Reggie Jackson. Play him 35, 40 minutes. He's your third best offensive player. He's your third best player, really, right now. Has the capabilities of being your third best player. Go small from the beginning. Westbrook, Jackson, Cephalosha, Durant, Perkins. Play Adams. Play Butler. Play PJ3 if you want to. Fisher. But I'd get Jackson in right away, and I'd play him a ton.
It's novel.
got to do something.
Yeah.
There ain't all these answers
Jackson,
out there.
more minutes for Jackson. He played a bunch, but I think Jackson's got to play
right
a
away.
ton.
Why not, right?
What happens to Thabo Cephalosha? We just talked about playing
Didn't you
him.
just hear? I said go small. Westbrook, Jackson, Cephalosha, Durant, Perk, starting lineup, and then Adams is coming off the bench for Perk.
So basically, you put Reggie in instead of Nick.
Yeah, you put
and you start.
You
with
put Durant on Splitter. You put Cephalosha on Leonard. You put Jackson on Green. Westbrook. Hey, you got to D up Parker. Westbrook.
Well, normally when they play Reggie and Russ together, Russ takes.
We know
the shooting
Jackson
guard
can start.
and Jackson takes the point guard. And they actually
Okay,
did it
that's
last
fine
night
too.
Reggie was on Tony Parker, and
I don't know that that's a great idea.
I think, well, I mean, it didn't really kill
Yeah.
him. But Russ was on. I forget if it was either Ginobili or Green, but he had the shooting guard. So my only thing is, then what do you got coming off the bench in terms of scoring punch?
Well,
Fisher.
You're gonna put Adams in. You know, you don't have a great off the bench, but just stagger your rotations where two of the
We've
three.
never seen him do that. We got to get that out of our minds. He's never done it. We've got to get that out of our minds.
He's got a Western
I don't think
Conference
he's going to
Finals.
start in the Western Conference Finals.
Look, I'm not saying what I think Brooks is going to do. I'm just saying what I think would be a good idea because they're in desperate times. And I think starting Jackson, staggering minutes. I understand what you're saying without scoring off the bench, but just stagger it so two of your best three playmakers are always on the floor. You always have.
I like it. And here's the thing. I don't know if he'll do it, but I didn't think there's any way he'd start Caron Butler against Memphis, and he did it just out of the blue. So hope springs eternal. And with that, gentlemen, I've got to go. I'm headed to the Spurs shoot-around.
C'est la vie.
I'm going to say hello, Tim Duncan. I'm going to tell Tim Duncan how great two of my comrades thinks he is.
No, you're going to put Tim Duncan in a headlock, and you two.
And I'll tell him how great I think he used to be.
Thanks, Barry.
Please use that exact wording. You used to be really great, Tim. Back in the day, I remember loving watching you play. Glory days.
East Finals.
Yeah, we'll go a little East Finals now that Barry's out of here. Your boys are one up, but by the time a lot of people are gonna be listening to this, I think the Heat are gonna put a whooping.
They got game 2 tonight in Miami. My money's on Miami in game 2.
I think, yeah. Miami, I think, is something like 10-0, and they're like after losses in the postseason the last couple of years. Like they always win after losses.
Yeah, that's a resilient team. My thing is, I'm more concerned about the Pacers now with them having a 1-0 lead than I was before the series started.
Oh, jeez.
No, seriously.
Did you think if they lost game 1, it would be better?
I'm not going to go that far, but it's the way they won game 1 that makes me concerned. They cannot possibly play better than they did in game 1. And the Heat might not be able to play worse than they did in game 1.
No, the Heat were they were so lazy with everything.
Their defense was horrible. We were listening to it on the radio coming down.
Oh, we were listening to the Heat broadcast.
First of all, if y'all think the Thunder's broadcasters are homers, y'all should hear these Pacers broadcasters, the radio broadcasters of the Pacers. What was the one guy?
Well, you had
Slick Leonard. We should have asked Barry before he left about Slick Leonard. Because we're too young to even know who he is.
Well,
but
they
had
the play-by-play guy who wasn't terrible. He did go boom, baby. Yeah, every time they hit threes.
They were up 5-0. He was like, "We're up on them."
No, the color guy was the guy that he's just sitting.
That's the color guy.
He wasn't even
Slick Leonard.
I think the play-by-play guy I thought was okay. He would just yell boom, baby. But then the other guy, the color guy, would I felt like his one job was to just like say, little sayings to the Pacers. He'd go, they. Come on, Roy. We need these 2 free throws.
Yeah.
Come on, Wes. D him up. Oh, Bosch can't do that on us.
Yeah, and that's all he was saying.
He wasn't like giving like analysis on the game. He was just like rooting the team on. Right. It was weird.
Reminded me.
But
of
then the
people.
Heat. Yeah, but I think you were going to talk about. Then we switch over to the Heat broadcast. As bad as their defense was, remember how frustrated he sounded?
Yeah, that guy. Like he was the opposite of a homer.
No, he was just like so negative about the Heat.
His like voice inflection too was just kind of like
because
he knew they were getting drilled.
Yeah, it was basically like, oh, Stevenson drives lane, drops it to us, another easy layup.
Yeah,
who would have guessed it? An easy layup against
which is shocking
Miami
for Miami
today.
broadcasters because those guys they walk around with their championship. They walk around with the Heat's championship rings on. Some of them.
But there's plenty of fans out there that love their teams,
Yeah.
but when their teams are not going well, they get really kind of like negative and mad about them.
I think most fans, though, would prefer the positivity of the home broadcaster.
Yeah.
Like being homers.
Like, boom,